Hi everyone, welcome to KnifeMakerTraining.com. I'm Ed Caffrey, ABS Mastersmith. Tim and I are real excited. We came up with an idea for a product. It's actually quite simple, but it's also really useful. I'll just go ahead and introduce it. What we've come up with, these are some I call them sanding sticks that I've made over the years. These particular ones are aluminum. However, Tim has some mechanisms that he's able to produce these things with. And so between us, we came up with the idea of creating sanding sticks. And what's really cool is, check this out. So Tim took the idea, ran with it. I've been sitting here this morning testing it, and I really like the product. The whole reason this comes about is every student that I have come through here for particularly my basic classes, this is one of the things I show them in hand finishing, which honestly I think every knife maker who's serious about knife making probably either already does it or should be doing hand finishing. But what we want to do today is not only introduce this product, but show you the uses of this product. This particular one is a PLA plastic, which frankly I've been very impressed with up to this point. It's durable, it's strong. I think it may be the go-to for me even from this point on. So how do we use this thing? This is what I call a sanding stick. We use it when hand finishing blades. I've got a blade here. My vise that I work with, this is just a support for this vise. And obviously sandpaper. This is the sandpaper I choose to use. It's Rhino Wet Red Line. Personally, I buy mine through Super Grit on the internet. There was a time when I really favored Norton Black Ice, but for whatever reason, it just got so insanely expensive, I could not justify using it anymore. So, how does this work? These are full sheets of sandpaper. Well, if I can get one out. Full 9 by 11 inch sheets of sandpaper. And if you notice, I've got a pile of strips here. What I do, and I think we're all familiar with the old guillotine type cutters, paper cutters that we used to see in schools or office settings or things like that. What I do is I actually cut all of my sandpaper, and here's my sandpaper rack on the finish bench. I cut it all into strips. You know, size is according to whatever each individual likes. Then, and I'll actually use the KMT, with these pieces of sandpaper cut in strips. This particular piece is 600. Line up your edge on the sanding stick, and then just start wrapping. This actually works really well for a couple of reasons, and as we get to them, I'll demo and talk more about them. So the blade we're going to work on, put it in my sanding vise, make sure it's on the backing, tighten it down. I've got to back my stool up just a little bit, and I'm a sit sander. I can't do it standing up. So anyway, the sanding stick is just basically 3 flat sides, but it's also triangled. And there's a method to this madness. These sharper triangles, particularly with the paper wrapped around them, creates a very short radius, but it's also very slightly padded because of the multiple wraps of sandpaper. This allows these sharp edges to get up into areas like the plunge cuts, and just by changing pressures and things, you can make this work in various ways. And I'll just go ahead and start and demonstrate how this works. The key here is training your eyes to see scratches. And what I'm doing is I'm sanding 90 degrees to my machine finish scratches. And there's a million different methodologies. Some folks recommend doing 45 and then an opposite 45. You know, that's going to be totally up to each individual. Personally, for me, I like doing all my sanding at 90 degrees to the previous grit scratches. We're just going to do a little bit of work with this, and as you can see, safety first, my fingers are up out of the way. You don't want to put your fingers under this sanding stick. Chances are, if you do so, you're going to be visiting the ER for a few stitches or at least some butterfly bandages. And then as paper wears out, all you do is tear off, go to the next clean side, and I'm just changing slight pressures one way or another to work on the scratches that my eyes are showing me. And the whole key to this hand finishing thing, I'm a very firm believer in that nothing will add more value to a knife than taking hands-on time like this. You just can't get these finishes with a machine. So again, okay, I've pretty much worn this piece of paper out. All I do is rotate this, tear it off into the trash. Little hint on this, do not sand on this side. If you have this rough edge where you've torn the paper off, you can sacrifice this little piece, that's not a big deal. I just go to the next clean face and see how I'm holding it between my thumb and forefingers. Wow, this sanding stick works great. I'm digging this. So guess what Ed's going to be doing from now on? Tim's not getting the prototype back. I guess we could arm wrestle for it. He's a young strapping lad. He might be able to put my butt down.
Only because you've been sick for a while.
Yeah. Well, I have old man disease too.
I know I'm breaking the third wall here or whatever, trying to make it look like Ed's the only person doing this or whatever, but this is a 3D printed tool. I will say that. We did do some proprietary measures that we'll keep to ourselves just with how we have constructed this and designed it and such. And we know there's lots of people with 3D printers out there, but this is just another way where if you appreciate what KMT is doing with our videos and things, this is a tool that we can get in your hands that will be helpful, that Ed really likes, and then at the same time is going to help continue to support us as we keep moving forward. So, something for you to consider. Something Ed was mentioning to me that might be useful to you is to remember to wrap this about twice. This is a prototype. We will be looking at how to improve it in the future. And he was mentioning wrap it twice in the
Sandpaper?
in the sandpaper to make sure that any textures that are on the sanding stick, or what we're going to call the Ed Caffrey signature sanding stick, you can actually wrap it twice. That way it protects you from the textures of the sanding stick itself. Okay. And we'll continue to look at ways to fix that.
And along that same line, if you can see, we're down to where we've got just a single wrap of paper. Okay, look at that. That's minimal waste. I'm wasting maybe that little bit. Any student who's ever been here, or anyone who's ever spoken to me and asked me questions, sanding belts and sanding paper, my theory on them is use them like they're free. Try to use them too much or too long, all you do is mess yourself up. Now we're at the point where you can see a lot of scratches and things down here. Traditionally, this is always the toughest part to hand finish out in any knife blade. And it's just by virtue that you're changing radiuses and levels. That's where these sharp angles on this come in. I can get in there, and all I'm doing is pushing that edge into that plunge cut. Notice how I've got it very slightly tilted this direction. You can tell by looking at the paper, that's what was hitting. See, not so much over here, but just that corner. I want to get in there again. All I'm going to do without tearing it off is just rotate this around, lift slightly, and then I'm getting right in that corner. Again, I really like this edge on the sanding stick because that really allows me to get in tight and close and clean up plunge cuts. And then what I do is I'm looking around in the light. Gosh, I like this sanding stick, Tim. Keep going, baby.
They're really doing that good?
This is actually doing better than the aluminum one.
That's awesome.
So you guys may not be able to get any of these because I may steal the first dozen prototypes for myself. Nah, just teasing. This is actually, the more I use it, the more impressed I am with it. This thing is working fabulous.
And including in our previous note, we have not tested this for very long, so this is why we're calling it a prototype. We're not going to call this a finished thing that's, you know, guaranteed a lifetime. But definitely, we do want to get this into people's hands, and Ed's a heavy hand. So if he's liking it so far, I feel like we can probably get this out there to quite a few people and probably have something somewhat satisfying. So.
Yep. And look at the finish. I mean, that's a 600 grit aluminum oxide paper, and we've been here, what, all of 5 or 6 minutes maybe?
Yep.
And this was actually up. I missed a couple of scratches I see I'll have to go back and get. See, this is what taking your time and looking does. I got a couple of littles there, a couple of littles there.
We can't see it.
Yeah, it's hard to see on the film. What you normally have to do is look in how the glare runs of the light runs up and down the blade. And you can catch little tiny ones like right there. But as I said, if you leave any scratches in here and intend to etch this blade, it's going to come out of the etch going, oh, hey, here I am. Not a good thing. Yeah, I actually think the combination of this sanding stick, I think it's just right for this purpose. Wow, I'm digging this. This is nice. That came out much better than even it did with the aluminum stick. Okay, guys. Tim's going to go print some of these out.
Yes, I am.
He's going to have them up on the site. You know, for those of you who have been here, you know what these are. You know how useful they are. For those of you who haven't been here for classes, you just saw the video. Great tool. Gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get along without, well, forget the aluminum. I'm going with the Tim printed ones. So anyway,
Well, give it some time and see how it wears and things like that in the future, and give him his chance to have a better decision over time. But for now, here's our prototype, the Ed Caffrey Signature Series sanding stick, and we'll get this. Go ahead, we'll get this produced and get it online for you guys so you can order yours. And I hope that you enjoy it. You deserve to have whatever tool you can to get you as quickly to an advanced level of knife making as you can get. Why take it slow? We can get you the right tools to help you fast, and if we can make it affordable for you in comparison to buying something much that takes a lot more money to produce.
Or time. I mean, the aluminum sanding sticks,
yes.
It takes me an average of about 3 hours to produce that. And I've had guys ask me to build them, and it's just not financially feasible / economic to spend 3 hours building a sanding stick and charge somebody $20 for it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think Tim's going to be able to offer these at a very reasonable price. So we'll just take that ball, run with it.
The timing is just right.
It's Mommy
So,
on the phone.
go ahead and say goodbye, Ed.
Don't hide.
Goodbye, Ed.
You can't hide. It's
Yes, Mama.